Well, hello and welcome to an episode of the Amira McCoy Project podcast. I'll be your host. My name is Danielle. Thank you very much for joining me. So tonight on the Amira McCoy Project podcast, a story called Under Candlelight. This is part one of a four-part series that takes us back to 1950s France, where Alain and André are having a lot of trouble staying apart. They happen to both be married to two beautiful women, but they are still very much in love.
The dinner had been planned weeks in advance. A gathering of old friends, partners, colleagues. The kind of evening where everything looks perfect on the surface, polished silverware, laughter bubbling through the air, a string quartet murmuring in the corner. Alain sat opposite André. Between them, a single candle trembled, its flame stretching and shrinking with every breath, every laugh, every hesitation that filled the room. To anyone else, they were simply two men in suits, exchanging polite conversation across the table. But in that narrow space between the candle and their glances lived a secret neither dared to speak aloud. André's wife was telling a story, something about a trip to Lyon. Alain's hand rested near his wine glass, his fingers tracing the stem slowly, rhythmically, as if he were counting heartbeats. He nodded at her words, but his eyes, those careful, intelligent eyes, never left André's. André smiled back, the smallest curve of a mouth trained to remain neutral. The kind of smile that could pass unnoticed by the rest of the world, yet set something ablaze between them. Oh yes, that's when I met him. He was outside in front of a grand building at night. His face was pointed skyward. He had a cigarette between his lips. That handsome face, those lips, I shall never forget them. He seemed happy but terribly sad all at once. It had started months ago, perhaps even years before either of them could admit it. A moment after work, a shared cigarette on a rainy street, a silence that felt like confession, and then, as always, retreat. Now under the golden light of the dining room, surrounded by laughter and crystal, everything felt unbearable. The candle flickered again, and in that trembling light, they both seemed to waver. Two men trapped between what they wanted and what the world allowed them to have. The dinner went on. Toasts were made. Glasses chimed. André's wife touched his arm. Alain looked away. But just before the dessert was served, their eyes met one last time. A long, wordless exchange, heavy with everything that would never be said. When the candle finally died out, so did the moment. Yet somewhere, in the quiet between their lives, the echo of that flame still burned. Night had taken the city. The Seine shimmered like a dark mirror, trembling with the reflections of the bridges and the lamps along its banks. The air smelled of wine, rain, and fallen leaves. The guests were leaving the restaurant. Soft laughter, farewells, the click of heels on whetstone. Alain and André's wives climbed into the waiting car, still talking about the evening. "Are you coming?" one of them asked. André shook his head lightly. "We'll walk a bit," he said, smiling just enough. The car drove away, leaving behind a ribbon of perfume and a trail of red tail light fading into the mist. Silence fell. They walked side by side, their steps even, the distance between them precisely measured, as if the whole night depended on not touching. It was a good evening, Alain said at last, his voice low. Yes, André replied. Very good. They both smiled too quickly. Then came a quiet, stifled laugh. The kind people use to hide something they can't afford to show. The wind gathered the leaves and spun them around their shoes. Paris seemed to be holding its breath, watching. At the corner of a narrow street, André stopped walking. You know, he murmured, not looking at him, I still think about that night. Alain's breath caught. So do I, he said, their shoulders brushed. A spark, barely there, but it burned all the same. For a heartbeat, the air between them became something alive, fragile, dangerous. They reached the river. The wind was colder here. The reflections of the city trembled on the dark water like secrets too heavy to stay still. André took his hand from his pocket. His fingers brushed Alain's, briefly, almost by accident. But in that single instant, it felt like a confession, a vow, and a goodbye all at once. Then he withdrew it. Silence again. Deeper this time, but gentler too. They walked until the fog swallowed their shapes completely. Under the streetlights, their shadows met and parted again, over and over, just as they always would. The rain had followed them all the way from the river. By the time they reached the café, the city was blurred. A watercolor of light and shadow melting into itself. André didn't speak. He only glanced once over his shoulder, then pushed open the door to the narrow stairwell behind the café. The air smelled of coffee and rain-soaked stone. Each step creaked, each heartbeat louder than the last. The room was small, hidden, the kind you rent for a single night and forget by morning. A single lamp burned weakly beside the bed. Outside, the city hummed in its sleep. Alain closed the door. For a long moment, neither moved. He could hear André breathing, slow, uncertain, the sound of someone fighting a war inside his chest. Their eyes met, and the air between them thickened, like honey and smoke. You shouldn't have come, André whispered. I already did, Alain replied softly. And that was the end of pretending. The distance between them disappeared. André reached out first, his hand trembling before it found the side of Alain's face. It was a touch heavy with restraint, not lust, but the ache of everything forbidden. Alain leaned into it, closing his eyes as if that single gesture might save him from the world. Outside, thunder rolled distantly over Paris, and then their lips met. Not with the hunger of youth, but with the reverence of two men who knew the cost of every second. The rain grew louder, a wild percussion against the window, drowning out the noise of guilt and time. Later, when the lamp had dimmed and their words had become nothing more than whispers in the dark, André lay still, tracing invisible shapes on Alain's skin. What happens now? He asked. Alain smiled faintly, though his heart felt heavy. Now, he said, we forget, and remember forever. The rain eased. Somewhere below, a door closed, a bottle broke, the world moved on. But in that small room above the café, two men remained, caught in a moment that refused to end.